Well, guys, it's about time to do another episode. I know it's been such a long time since we've done one. I don't know exactly how long, but yeah, we're going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to do a little bit of a Q&A. How the format's going to go, I was just thinking about this because it's been a little while, is that Drew's going to ask me a series of questions, however many he wants, doesn't matter at all. And then I will ask him a series of questions. Who do you want to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, so Drew's going to ask me questions or whatever, then we're going to pause, and then we're going to do vice versa.
Theoretically, these are questions that we've gotten from people as well regarding watches and the watch market and how it's affected everything.
By the way, this is an optical illusion. We are like 8 feet apart right now.
That's right.
I'm just letting you guys know. It's kind of cool how cameras work. Like what we actually do. It's like a magic trick.
Yeah, this is all optical illusions.
Yep.
So Sigmund and Roy would be proud.
I know.
But anyway, as you can see, let's start with the Q&A. We haven't done these in, I guess, quite a while. The last one we did was probably about 2 years ago at it's Point Pleasant, I think, right? Where we did the Q&A, and we did that on Facebook Live.
Way too long ago.
So, yeah, these are some questions, and they're pretty good questions based on what we have heard and the questions we've gotten over the past couple months based on, let's start with the pandemic. First question that I've gotten, and I'll pose it to Jared, is with the recent surge of the pandemic, we've seen a lot of markets take a hit. We've seen the stock market take a hit. We really haven't seen the housing market take a hit. It's still a seller's market out there. The question is, with the watch market, has that taken a hit? Or is this something that's going to show even further down the line, like more along with the housing type of market, or is it going to be more like the stock market where you can get watches at really good prices right now? Because, as you know, watches are looked upon as luxury items. Therefore, they're not something that's essential. So it's not like toilet paper where everybody and their mother has been going out and getting it every 5 seconds. So is this something where you can get a good deal, or is it going to be further down the line when you're going to really see the companies take a hit based when their numbers come out for the quarter?
It's a good question. Very multifaceted, and I've read a few very interesting articles recently on this, and here's the simple but complicated answer, if you will. So, I just read an article today. Swiss watch exports in May have, of course, for the last few months, not just May, but have taken quite a beating. They are down very significantly. The United States market has certainly come back a little bit. I know that China, the first one to really get hit with the pandemic, the first one to close down, the first one to really open back up compared to the rest of the world, rebounded quite a bit, but of course, numbers are still down. Whenever you look at a question like that, you always have to take a look at the new market and the exports versus the pre-owned market and the existing inventory. And the new market is always the one that takes a little bit of a hit because, who really likes to, and we've went over this so many times, who really likes to pay the retail prices? Not many people, ultra wealthy people do, but that's not the reality for most people, and most people want to look for deals because if they're going to go for resale value, let's just say, even if it's Rolex, even if you get 5-10% off there, you're still going to save money, let's just say, if you want to resell it down the road. So the new and the exports have really taken a bit of a hit, and they're trying to do retailer spotlights. I mean, retailers are open for business, of course, in the U.S., but business is down because foot traffic is really not as high. They were talking about, is revenge spending going to come back, especially for luxury items? It may not. The market is still testing a lot of things, and we're still a little early to tell. Although, according to Watchbox, they're saying that their demand has been just spiking like crazy. Prices have started to level out and or rise again when they fell originally. I know that Drew and I were just talking that Geneva, they're going to be doing their first, kind of like online virtual watch auction in the next few days. They're expecting big things with that. A lot of things for the pre-owned market, I could see things as somewhat better because, again, you're doing a lot of online transactions. So The market certainly has taken a little bit of a hit, but it's starting to rebound. But you're going to see the longer term effects, I think, in the next 6 months to about a year.
Based on that? And do you think the newer market or the pre-owned market is going to take the bigger hit
Oh,
due to
for
COVID?
sure, the newer market, not even a question. The reason why I say that is because Rolex, Patek, all the big houses, let's just say, even Vacheron a little bit, have really delayed all their watch releases till next year. They don't want to release anything, but although everyone knows what's coming out for Rolex at this point, I even know what's coming out. It's, again, nothing too impressive. Rolex usually does like little tweaks, but I will tell you guys this, since we're on this topic, is that if you have an older Submariner, it's going to become a little bit more collectible for a reason. Any ones with the previous, they're going to be adding the new movement into them.
Define old.
I would say anything that's from 2018, 2019, and before. Anything that's going to be released for technically 2020 or 2021. It's going to be their new Rolex Submariner. So they're not really discontinued, but they kind of are in a way, because they're going to be putting in the new movements. They're not going to be available with the older movements. So I'm not saying they're going to be harder to get necessarily, but they may be a little bit more sought after, in a sense, although new movements are supposed to be amazing. But I definitely think that the new market takes a hit because, again, you have all these shows that are going virtual. People really haven't had a chance to see the watches in person, and for many luxury items, people want to see them and feel them and touch them and experience them. Rather than buying them online and having to send them back, and maybe there's issues with that. So definitely the new market takes the hit versus the pre-owned, but that's just a general rule of thumb. So I don't think COVID has really been an exception to the rule, just except for decreasing foot traffic and of course affecting the auctions and the watch shows.
That would lead me into the next question. Is this a good time, and what brands, if you were to buy them new, would you go after right now based on the market?
Well, that's a good question. I would really say some of the, let's say newer, sought after, sometimes even higher end models, because theoretically, if you're going to see some discounts, you're going to see maybe some larger discounts with some of the bigger brands, if any, because, in general, sometimes, they still don't have too much of an issue with moving their inventory, but, with this pandemic and maybe not as much luxury spending, sometimes they're going to be willing to give you a little bit more percentage off. You always have to ask. I've had some inquiries on Chrono 24 lately into some people, where I'm like, oh, what's the best price you can do? And they're like, oh, firm on the price. And I'm like, well, it sucks to be you because you're not going to get my business. I think if you're not willing to budge at least 10 to 20-ish%, the inventory is going to be sitting there. Especially if you're overseas, it's a little bit of a pain in the ass to ship things and restrictions, especially with shipping nowadays. Things are getting held up everywhere between UPS, FedEx, DHL, doesn't matter what it is.
I think you're playing with fire. I agree with you. I think with sellers, I think you're playing with fire right now. If you think there's
it's a buyer's market.
There.
It's not a seller's market right now.
Yeah, right now it's a little different than some other industries out there. What brands, though, would you see really being in demand right now based on the situation that's happened in 2020?
That's interesting.
Are we looking more towards value brands, or are we looking more towards collector's items because you can get them at a bigger discount?
Well, that really all depends. Rolex is an exception to the rule, I have to say, because they are what they are. I have to tell you something, and I don't use this language loosely, but they are just dicks. I have heard so many stories lately of just regular customers, people, authorized dealers, going into these Rolex shops. Rolex just doesn't care. They barely have any inventory on the shelves. They don't care about showing you anything. If you're not spending $300-400 grand, they're just always the exceptional rule. So I don't know. Rolex just is what it is. It's always hard to comment on them, but I'm just not a personal fan of theirs in general. Um, Value brands. They're always. It's hard for me to say with value brands because they're always discounting a certain amount. I don't know if they're discounting more. I would just say that they've continued to discount the way that they have even before the pandemic went. I mean, I do know that they're taking such big hits, especially Swatch Group and whatever. Um, you know, again, I don't see as many huge discounts with some of the bigger houses. And again, they're holding off from, you know, uh, really releasing a lot of new watches. So, I'm not saying that they don't care, but they can weather the storms a little bit more than some of the other brands can, especially the value brands. But what I always say, especially during this time, is negotiate, and if they're not willing to negotiate, you walk away. They need you more than you need them right now.
Yeah, and well, there's another interesting one. I got a question on this a while back. Thought I'd pose it to you as well. Do you think?
How am I doing so far? I'm doing okay.
Not too bad. Not too
All
bad.
right, good.
Considering these questions they're multifaceted, like you said.
All right.
Now, considering that, do you have any fear right now in buying automatic watches, considering that the watch population of watchmakers are consistently getting older? They're around 70, 75 right now, and they would have harder times, much longer times, to get any mechanical watch fixed. And watchmakers are dying out as a breed to begin with, so they're going to get more expensive in the future. Do you have any reservations about buying mechanical watches going into the future, knowing that watchmakers could become obsolete or a lost art in the future?
Great question. This is a simple one for me compared to the other ones. Absolutely not. So I know, I know a lot of places to get a watch serviced across the country, which would be no problem, whether they're in-house movements or not in-house movements. So that's one option. The other thing you can always do is you could always send it to the brand themselves, although they're going to cost a lot more money and take a lot more time. But yeah, no. One of the things that I will say, and I'm going to use this just as an example, is that think about during the quartz crisis, which was a lot worse than this, when brands, their survival, their means of survival meant you either create quartz pieces, or if you don't, good chance you were going to die. So during this pandemic, not nearly as severe as the quartz crisis, because there's not another piece of machinery in this case that's exactly affecting the demand here. It's more so economy, jobs, which is also a big thing. But there are a lot of people out there that still have the disposable income in order to spend. Maybe not as much as they were. Will it come back? Probably, chances are. But there's always a watchmaker out there. I know several great sources. If anybody ever needs, a good watchmaker just for an estimate or something, let us know. Send us an email. Put in the comments below. We'll be more than willing to pass along. And they're very fair prices. You have to remember that any mechanical piece that's worth servicing, and I'm not talking about Seiko. Seikos are not really worth servicing, but anything from, let's say, like a Mito, Tissot, anything all the way up to like a Patek or Rolex, a Gigi-Lecoultre, say that name or whatever it is.
Turns my wife on.
Not even a question that those are easily to service, even like Tudor, whatever it is. Those are, there's always going to be somebody around to do something like that. Even if there's not a solid watchmaker, may eventually have to turn to the brands themselves, but there's usually a few watchmakers here and there. But I will preface with this, just kind of know who you're sending it into before you do it, because they can really do a botched job if it's not the right person, if you don't trust them, if you haven't gone through them before.
Good point. More to finish off this segment. Apple, Fitbit. A lot of different watch companies are going, as you know, into the realm of smartwatches. Do you think the big boys in the industry, They adapt or they die.
I,
First rule of business.
I think that they're indifferent towards it, and I can understand why. Um, the highest end brand that I know of that is doing like the small, Hublot, I believe, that just released Hublot, Tag Heuer, Frederic Constant. Um, all have smartwatches out and things like that, and
Well, I can understand why Frederic Constant would have a smartwatch out because they're owned by Citizen.
right. Excuse my language here. Rolex, Patek, Vacheron, all these other big houses, they don't give a shit. Especially with Rolex. They're like, listen, you want to buy our watch, is fine. If you don't, then that's your choice. There's always going to be demand for us. But the thing is that they don't need to. I think that there's almost a line that's drawn in the sand between the brands that are doing it and the customer base that's going to buy it versus those that don't do it and the customer base that's just not going to care about buying them. So to me, I don't think that they need to adapt. The brands that don't do it for a reason, and the brands that do it for a reason. And I don't think that you would see more people necessarily buying the smartwatches from the bigger brand whatsoever, even though people buy from Apple like crazy. Again, it's because of the reputation Apple has versus take a look at the reputation that some of these other watch brands have. They don't necessarily need to do it. Would it help them? It could be a possibility. It depends on how much it costs. If people don't want to spend $8,000 on a smartwatch, okay, let's be real here. I mean, the Apple Watch is stretching it in terms of the budget.
Okay. And finish this one off. You wanted to sell a watch, and coming out of this pandemic, we all know we might go into a second wave. What would be your best place to sell it? Now, we all know there's a lot of options out there with Chrono24, eBay, and so on. What do you believe is the best option to sell your watch, where you would get the most bang for your buck, number one, and number two, you wouldn't get killed on fees through the seller?
Well, that's an interesting, and tough one. I mean, the number one place that I would say to not get hit with as much fees is just the forums in general. Although you may not get as much exposure, I will say, with places like Chrono24 and eBay, you're getting the most amount of exposure. eBay has the highest fees, Chrono24 second highest fees, but you're getting a lot of exposure. With eBay, it's auction style, so you're getting crazy, insane amount of bids. You're really also seeing how much something is really worth on the secondhand market, I will say, which is pretty good. Chrono24, it's a place where a lot of dealers go to see what how much they'll offer you for your piece, and there's a simple formula to do it. I just saw a great video from Watchbox which shows you how much you can expect to get from your watch after all your fees and everything. But yeah, I would say between you could also sell it just privately on your own, but again, that's really going through the forum. So I would say between those three mediums, it's you could take your pick, but with today's day and age, I hate to say it, but eBay may be one of the best.
I would have to agree. I would think the eyeballs on eBay, it's second to none. It's like you're dealing with Amazon.
Although I know a lot of people go through Chrono24, but it has to be competitively priced, in my opinion. It can't market value.
You have a little bit more
below.
issues with Chrono24 in terms of the return process.
Well, the return process, you got to pay international fees.
Yeah.
Because they're actually based in Germany.
Yeah, and
so
you run into normally eBay has a good customer service line.
They're okay.
I'm not talking about pandemic-wise. Pandemic has been awful. But
eBay's policies suck, I will say that. But,
in terms of their customer
things.
service, they're much better than Chrono24. Even though Chrono24 has had customer representatives during this pandemic, they're really not able to do much. I'll contact the buyer or the seller and we'll try to see if we can work out a resolution, which means you're going to your credit card company. So it's just a little more cut and dry with eBay. They like to take care of it more than Chrono24 does. They kind of leave it for you guys to work it out a little bit more. But I would have to agree with eBay on that as well. So that's the first half of this segment for the Q&A for
Oh,
Jared and
I,
me.
I'm going to do a firing of questions for Drew next.
And let's get started with the second half.
All
So I'll have Jared ask me the questions now that he's heard from people along the way and the ones he has himself.
So
fire
first
away.
question is, what's the most expensive watch you have in your collection?
Rolex Submariner,
Okay. What year was it from?
2005.
Interesting. And what is the market value on that nowadays? If you were to
It's a
sell it.
good question. I bought it new in 2005 for about $5,500. I'd say market value, since it's in pretty damn good condition, it does need a servicing. I'd say after I get it serviced, I'd say close to 10.
Okay. What's your least expensive watch you have in your collection?
Hmm. Oof. That's a tough one.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
I-
Were you
I'm gonna
talking
stump 'em.
vintage or no?
Doesn't matter. Just the least
It
expensive.
would
in your
have to
collection.
be the my father's old Longines. It's
Okay.
probably about 100, 200 bucks. It's from the 1960s. It has 4 gold diamonds on it in the face, but back then they were wind up. I'd say, but yeah, about 100, 150 bucks.
Okay. Let's see here. Favorite automatic watch in your collection?
It's got to be the Constellation,
Okay.
my Diamond Constellation, which is still my favorite watch. So that would fall into that factor.
Favorite quartz watch in your collection?
That's close, because I'm battling between my Concord Mariners and the Rado Ceramica. I would have to lean towards the Ceramica only for one reason and one reason only. It's a lot more durable on my wrist, not for the reason you think. I have a unique problem, which a lot of people do have. Sometimes when I put the Concord Mariners on my wrist, they stop. And the reason why is because it's the magnetism in your body. It can stop a quartz watch. Depending on how high the magnetism is in my body at certain points of the year or where I am. If I go on a cruise and I go down to the bottom, like where you go eat for dinner at night, it'll stop the entire time. If I go back up to the top deck, it starts up. Really strange. It only happens on certain people's body. I love the watches, but I can't wear them as many places as I could. This did not happen with the Rado Ceramica or the Integral, my Diamond Integral. So I mean, when you're talking about, range of motion, yeah, I could wear that Rado Ceramica that I wear with my golf watch. I could literally wear it anywhere; it never stops. That does not happen with the Concord Mariners, especially the ones from the 80s.
Okay. Next question. Which watch are you most likely to sell next in your collection and why?
Asshole.
he asked me the easy questions. I said I'm going to ask him the hard ones.
It may be the one I'm wearing.
Which one are you wearing today?
Which brings me to what's on my wrist, because I had been looking for a possible upgrade to it. Right now I have the Ulysse Nardine Marine Chronometer diver's watch on.
Interesting.
Probably my favorite diver's watch that I own, but I may be upgrading it. This is a 38. Love it. Works within 1 to 2 seconds a day. However, they came out with an upgrade to this, and the upgrade is a 42. Not that I like the size better. However, down on the bottom dial, it does have the months. So not only does it has 2 hands, one does the seconds and the other does the months, and so it becomes more of a month date watch, not a day date, but a month date watch. And I have been looking at ones, but they just don't have the steel band that I'm looking for at the price range I'm looking for. So this may go, depending if I could find the one I want at the right price. If not, I stay with this one. I'm happy either way, but stay tuned for that. There could be that surprise around the horizon, because this is in my top 10. I didn't think it would until I saw the upgraded version, which just came out a few years ago, the Marine Chronometer.
Okay. So if you had to shoot, well, actually, I'll ask you this one question before the other one. Speaking of accuracy, what is the Least amount of accuracy you would accept on a watch.
7 seconds a day.
Fast or slow?
Fast.
How about slow?
Slow. Maybe 5.
Okay,
I'm,
so
I'm close to
-5 to
the
+7.
I'm close to the COSC standards. They're 4 and 6. I'm 5 and 7. I'm close.
Okay.
Or else I just have to start tinkering with it. I can't stop. It's a pet peeve of mine.
All right. So let's see. Next question. If you had to choose a Grail watch, any watch in the world, it doesn't matter how much it costs. Which one would you buy?
The Patek Philippe. One I told you about. What is it? It's not the Nautilus. It's the annual calendar. It's the Patek Philippe annual calendar where it's got it's a triple date, but it's got the month and the day both angled on the sides between the 10 and the 2. I think it's so beautifully designed. That sucker's normally anywhere between, I guess, 40 and 60,000. I would guess.
Is that the most amount of money you'd spend on a watch?
That was your next question.
Well, kind of. Yeah.
No, right now the most amount of money I'd spend on a watch, maybe in that.
No. Like just in general. Let's just say if you really had the money. Let's say you had $1 billion.
Okay.
How much money would you realistically, if you really wanted to spend on a watch?
Oh, if I had $1 billion, it wouldn't freaking matter.
So you would spend $1 million.
Yeah,
$2
I'd
million,
go
wouldn't matter.
50,000, 70,000. Wouldn't really matter.
So probably not above
I wouldn't. I wouldn't go.
100,000?
No, yeah, I wouldn't go $1 million. That's just there's no market for it. Because if I ever wanted to sell it, and I know I'm not like Jack Nicklaus, will keep a watch for the rest of my life, one watch for the rest of my life, because I have so many. It doesn't really matter. No, I want a way out of it. If I found something I like better, I love this watch, but if I could find the upgrade I like even better, I want to know I can sell it, and there's a market, and there's still plenty of people in that $40,000 to $60,000 range where you'd be able to sell it, especially Patek Philippe.
All right. Well, one more question here to kind of start to wrap things up, and it's a little bit more thought-provoking. Let's say that you worked in a watch store, hypothetically, right? And you sold a lot of different brands. Not gonna exactly. I'll let you be creative, with the brands and things like that. But somebody came in, and you could ask me any questions, like just to follow up with me. But let's say somebody just came in and said, I'm looking to purchase a watch. What would you recommend, and why?
Got to be more specific than that. What's your budget?
Okay. Budget is up to, let's say, $2,000.
Automatic or quartz?
Preferably automatic. Preferably. What would you, looking for a watch that's, overall good in a lot of different scenarios. Sports watch, or as they classify it as, doesn't necessarily have to be a sports watch, but I would say, about 100 meters of water resistance would be pretty good. That can go for almost any, kind of situation. But, because obviously we're in the time of year, dads and grads. Of course, the grads...
You're talking new, right?
I mean, theoretically, yes, because they're, what.
Usually watch stores sell
let's go
them.
between one new and one pre-owned. It could be gray market.
Okay.
That's like okay or whatever it is. But let's just say somebody came to you. It doesn't have. Let's just say it's not even in a watch store. Somebody's just coming to you, because this could be a great. Any viewer could ask this question, right? Again, it's the season. People are graduating, and Father's Day just passed. Maybe someone's still looking for a last-minute gift or something like that. What would you recommend? New, pre-owned, whatever. If you could just choose one watch.
Based on,
it's
it's a good question, because based on your budget, it nixes some ones that I would throw out right away, which would be normally Zenith, Rolex, Ulysse Nardine. They're over 2,000, so they're out. So you're looking more towards the value side. However, you're still in an expensive budget range.
I mean, 2,000 is still a lot.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
That's pretty good, and I would have to narrow it down between 3. Again, I would stick with Rado. I love the ceramic. I love the longevity of the ceramic. They have a lot of different options regarding both quartz and automatic. Very reliable. I love Oris. Oris does have that divers, a lot of divers piece, a lot of aviators pieces. And Jared and I met them at the watch show last year. They're doing great things over there. The watches just last a long time, and they're very, very reliable, and they're pretty good for your money. Also, Ball. I think Ball's a very good brand. I love the tritium tubes that they last for a good 20 years, and I've had their watches, and they are very reliable and they're very accurate. I don't think they get enough play because they're really not marketed or advertised like the other brands, but they're a little more of a collector's brand if you like more of the insider. Like if you know Oris, Oris has been a lot more advertised the past couple years than Ball, but I think Ball is another good one. Of the three, if I had to say, I think your best bet is probably Oris, only because of how many different styles they have and how many unique colors they use. Because it has a little something for everybody. And I think that's just, it gives a wide range. It has a lot of different styles. They go anywhere between 38 and 46 or 47, most of their models, you would say. And they do have more die pieces than the other two combined, but you couldn't go bad with either one, well, any of those three brands.
All right, let's say you had to choose one watch within the Oris category to recommend. Which one would it be?
Oof. I like the Aquas. I got to say that's the hot line right now from Oris. I'm wearing that. I'll be in LBI next week. Hopefully I'll be able to do an episode from there, but I'll be wearing my Aquas Divers watch there as well, part of the trilogy that I have mentioned in the past. They're solid watches, and they've gotten a lot of play, and they hold very well with the market value. Even if you buy them new, you're not taking a huge loss. I am seeing a lot of these watches that come out new hold 80 to 90% of their value, which is very good for most watch brands, as Jared knows, if you're buying new. It's not something like Tudor or Tag Heuer. If you buy it new, you can just rip off 50% and then try to sell it used. So, I mean, I like the Aquas line. I think they're doing great things, a lot of different colors. They both make it for men and women. And you're talking about a diver's watch that's going to last you at least 20, 30 years. And a lot of these watches don't need servicing for quite a bit of time.
Very interesting.
So you can see we did a lot of Q&A today, which was, I got to tell you, it's pretty much off the cuff. We didn't have any of this written down, which is, why we banter so well. We were just making this stuff up on the spot from things we've heard from other people. And just normal questions that we were just ripping off one by one based on our collections. So one more Q&A for each other as we, say goodbye to you for this episode, for, both of us for this episode. I guess my last final question to you would be, your next watch, if it could be any watch under $3,000, what would it be?
I'm so happy that he asked that question. So I have something somewhat sad to admit on this show. I know I've done this so many different times. He knows.
Here it goes.
It's funny because one of the things Drew knows about me, and I don't think we've ever done this on the show before. But I have been into watches for, let's say, the last, 6 years or so?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 7 years? First watch that I ever bought was the Rado Voyager from the 70s. I think it was like a Franken watch, I don't know if it was, I think it was like a India special. It was like $100 watch, whatever it is. But it kind of stopped working after a while.
If it worked correctly, but somehow it fueled your interest even further.
Yeah, it was something that was very interesting, and since then, I have literally bought and sold whatever it is between 50 to 100 watches.
I'd say about that, yeah.
Give or take.
Mm-hmm.
In a neighborhood of probably 10 to 20,000.
Yeah.
Give or take.
Right.
Let's just say hypothetically. Can't say I'm the proudest to admit that, but it is what it is. And, as you start to get a little older, you start to realize kind of what's, sometimes a little bit more important, what's not as important. I don't have a very large budget. Don't make a ton of money, make a comfortable living, whatever. I'm not going to get into that stuff or whatever. Um, but I think that you have to find watches that speak to you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Obviously, my favorite complication is a day date. Sometimes it's a little hard to find ones like that, especially we have smaller wrists and ones within budget and things like that. Um, so for me, I've actually done. I haven't told this to Drew yet, but he's here and he asked this question, so I have to be honest with him, whatever it is. But one of the watches I bought for myself recently was the Omega Seamaster. It's actually up for sale, believe it or not, and there's two reasons for it actually.
Had a good run. It did. It's
Now
there for like 4 months.
I do. I will say, I do like the watch a lot. I happen to love it. It's a bulletproof movement and things like that. Now I did buy it to celebrate, me being at my new job, which I love. I'm still there, doing great at whatever it is. A, I never connected with the watch. I think as much as I wanted to, but B, I think as you start to get older a little bit, one of the things that you realize a little bit is that for me, sometimes there's some more important things in life that I need to take care of, especially with the house, with the little girl. And do I really want to have the money tied up in a watch when I could have it put into A, the house, B, into investments for my daughter, myself and my wife for the future and things like that. If you're gonna get a good Swiss watch, which I love, minimally, you're probably spending, let's say, around 3-ish, hundred, like on like a Hamilton or something like that. You can go up to like 400 or 500 for Tissot, and then again Mito, and then you keep going up to like Longines, and any of the other watches, let's say within the Swatch group, are probably the most affordable in the Swiss category. I mean, you could also get a Swatch watch, but not as, I don't know. I don't think it carries as much as the Prestige. But so I have. It's the reason why I was watching the episode earlier. I have two Tissots coming in right now, which are both very great watches. One, I don't think Drew, maybe you guys have never heard of. It's one that's discontinued. I'm just trying to remember the exact line of it now, and I can't remember. One of them is the Tissot Gentleman Powermatic 80, which is really almost an unbelievable watch for the money. And then the other one, like I said, I can't even remember, but yeah, for what? By the way, what was the question one more time? Because I just gotta.
If you could, any watch under $3,000, your next one.
Yeah, so it's for me, there's two brands, right? Longines actually has come out with some very impressive watches lately. It's their Heritage line, which pilots watches, some dressier watches. You're not going to get crazy water resistance. You'll get between 3 ATM, 30 meters, and 50 meters. But really just unbelievable kind of watches in terms of design. So I would say for them, for maybe kind of the higher end. For the lower end, I would really have to say Tissot. And the reason why is because I do have experience selling them. But also, in terms of their range, they offer, for their budget watches, they offer between dress, divers, a little bit pilot's watches too, whatever it is, but their watches is more dynamic for their price point than any other brand that exists out there for Swiss watches. So Mito is okay. The only problem I have with Mito is their quality not as great. I think Tissot is a little bit better in terms of quality. But yeah, I would say between those two, personally. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting the other watches in, and just even just, I don't care whatever it is, even to wear to bed. It doesn't. I know Drew wears it. By the way, you never ruin an automatic watch by wearing it to bed. No. You never ever. The only time you'll ruin it is if you go on the golf course or whatever it is. But yeah. So I think that kind of answered the question. I mean, I really went into things like surprise, whatever. And I know Drew's not surprised about me selling the Omega. As much as I love it, it's an unbelievable watch. you kind of get where I'm coming from a little bit ish. You know, I mean, trust me, I also love dive watches. They're my favorite, but dive watches in the category, they're kind of like, you know, again for like the 38 to like even like 40 millimeter. They're kind of, and by the way, it had nothing to do with the size. The Omega Seamaster 42 millimeters fit very well on my wrist. It's just a matter of more important to free up some money and things like that. Just for the future, for investing and stuff, which I think is important.
What's your final question to me?
My final question, Drew, I have to think about this maybe for just a second, because I asked him a lot of
Gotta
questions.
have one bullet left in that tank.
Damn. Oh, I have probably so many.
And keep in mind, guys, while he's thinking of the last question, please remember to like, subscribe.
Again, this is unscripted, so
right. We're just rolling through this.
Mm.
Like, subscribe. Any particular questions you have from us, please list them below this episode. We'll see if we can get back to you on them as well.
Okay. I think I have a question.
And we will definitely see you on the next episode to see if we can answer some of them for you as we get them.
This is a two-parter, so I'm sorry, but it just came to my mind. What's your biggest accomplishment within the watch world that you feel that you've reached or whatever it is, and what's your biggest regret? Kind of a two-parter. I had to.
My biggest regret and my biggest accomplishment are probably in the same brand.
Omega?
No.
No. Okay.
No. Gigi Lecoq. The fact that I've owned several JLCs in my life, and that is not an easy one to get your hands on, as Jared knows. They're expensive. Is pretty powerful to me because they are one of the best brands in the world.
Watchmaker.
Exactly.
They're just not part of the Holy Trinity.
No, they should be. I mean, I have Rolexes, I have Cartier, I have all of them. Yes, from a status symbol, that's a great watches to have. In terms of the inner circle, as Jared and I were talking about before, JLC is in the inner circle, the watchmaker's watch. So, I mean, but there's my biggest regret too, because I tried to customize one of them, and it took a bath.
Remember that one?
And it was a beauty. I customized it beautifully. I called it the Donald Trump watch. It was a red, white, and blue. And the more you tried to customize and the more you tried to get it perfect, something always went wrong. And I ended up spending more in repairs than I did for the watch. And I ended up taking a several $1,000 loss on it. And the person who bought it from me ended up restoring it to how it was in the beginning. So it wasn't.
Probably spent a little less money.
Oh yeah, I took a bath, and I'm sorry I did all that to it.
We went out to you went to his watchmaker Sergio, and it wasn't Sergio's fault. It just was.
It never nothing. It was like it was like Murphy's Law, and if you know our governor, it would pretty much apply. But I mean, nothing went right. The more I did with it, the more money I kept spending.
Do you remember which model it was?
Oh, it was the World Timer, the Master, the Geographic World Timer Master Edition. And it was beautiful, but I never could get everything working right on it after I started tinkering with it. So it can be a blessing or it can be an absolute disaster, and that one ended up being a disaster. And because of it, I ended up going to the Dual Timer, the Dual Matic, and I get more compliments probably on that piece than I do with most of my watches. I wear that on every vacation that I go to a different time zone with, and boy oh boy, that sucker, normally it's about a $13,000 watch, and I get more compliments with that. I have not touched it, I have not done a damn thing, and I will not. It's just meant to be as it is.
So that's like you would say your accomplishment.
It's my accomplishment, that the lesson I've learned from JLC, let's put it that way. And normally I wouldn't say anything bad about JLC, but when you try to tinker with them, don't. They become disasters because watchmakers can't fix them like JLC can, so they can become absolute disasters. And it becomes a boat where you just keep busting out another 1,000. And I was just tired of doing it at some point. You just want it out. So, I mean, I think that was my biggest disappointment and disaster all at the same time.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, I didn't think you figured I'd go that route, but yeah.
No,
when he thinks about it,
I wasn't too surprised. The accomplishment,
they got
maybe a little bit more surprised by it, but not too much. But
what do you think my biggest accomplishment was with the watches I've gotten?
Man,
As a bonus question.
you know,
And he knows my collection pretty well, so.
I would say maybe something a little bit more sentimental in terms of something that you received and or purchased for yourself.
You mean Zenith?
It could be that, or maybe like one of the Rolexes, or
The Rolexes I had gotten a long time ago, so
Yeah.
it wasn't an accomplishment back then because those were my first couple watches were Rolexes.
yeah,
And I expanded out from there. I modified the Rolexes. You can modify all you want. It's JLC. Don't even try. So, but yeah, I mean, I know he really likes my Defy Lab from Zenith.
yeah. The Defy, Zenith makes one hell
Really good watch.
of a watch. I
Really
mean,
good watch.
They're
I never had
just,
one up till recently.
They're just cool.
They are, and
Yeah.
they're good. I was surprised how good they were. I knew they were a good brand, but how good they were, and I know they're very expensive, so I was,
I think
hesitant
they're
to
worth the
try
money
it.
though.
They are, especially
I do.
Defy Lab.
And they
Boy,
hold
you can't
pretty
get 'em
damn
anymore.
good value.
My God, and there's certain Defy Labs you can't even get anymore. They're just out of stock. But anyway, guys, thanks for joining us today for the Q&A.
Well, good episode.
I'm telling you, it was almost a 46-minute episode, and so
Yeah, 46. And your phone's. Wait a minute. How does your phone? By
don't
the way,
ask. I'm gonna have to probably splice some shit together by the time this gets over with.
That's nuts.
But again, we will try this. Like I said, I'll be in LBI next week. Hopefully, I'll be able to do an episode there for you. Maybe there's an outside chance Jared gets to join us, come down for a day and do a day trip with us. You never know. Stranger things have happened. And if so, we'll probably do an episode down at the beach, as we've done for the past several years.
I'll tell you, this was a pretty damn good episode.
It was
This was
all off
pretty
the cuff.
damn good.
Usually
And-
we have some type of script. Not
I don't
today.
know if you guys have any other questions. Feel free to just post them. I don't know if Drew mentioned that while I was thinking about my question because I wasn't paying
did.
attention. But like, subscribe, do all that great stuff or whatever it is, and yeah,
We will catch you on the next episode of
it's about time.